Hey, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Hanging On to Hope podcast.
I'm Brenda J.
And I'm Karen Wonder.
And we are HangingOnToHope.org.
This podcast is intended as educational and is not psychological or medical advice. Always consult a professional when needed, and we disclaim any liability in connection with the instruction, information, or advice given. Hello, everyone. This is Karen B. Thanks for tuning into the Hanging On to Hope podcast. Today, we welcome back one of our favorite guests, Sheila Wray Gregoire.
Yeah, you did it.
Congratulations, Karen. I messed up so many people's names. And we were talking about her new book, The Marriage You Want. This book was written by Sheila and her husband, Keith. Sheila is the face behind BearMarriage.com, as well as speaker and award-winning author of 9 books, including The Great Sex Rescue and She Deserves Better and others. Sheila is passionate about changing the evangelical conversation about sex and marriage to make it healthy, evidence-based, and biblical. So welcome back to the show, Sheila.
Thank you. It's good to be here again.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're with us. So we talked with you previously about The Great Sex Rescue, which I highly recommend. Mm-hmm. That was a great book. We also talked to you about She Deserves Better.
She Deserves Better.
She Deserves Better. And then The Good Girl's Guide to Great Sex. Those are the 3 podcasts we've already done. So we've already talked about the many evangelical marriage books, which I would not recommend and can make things worse, like Love and Respect and other books. So I consider this a very important matter. And this also was very timely because I just got married in May to.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. So as I read through the book, I was telling my husband, I'm like, we're doing really good. Because a lot of things he recommended, like going to bed at the same time. I'm like, oh, we do that. So anyway, it was really encouraging for me. And I just liked all the research.
Continuing with part 2.
Yeah.
Wow. And yet we never talk about this. Instead, like books like His Needs, Her Needs, or Jimmy Evans' book, Marriage on the Rock, they literally say that God gave men a need for domestic support. So God created men to need women to do the housework, essentially.
That's crazy.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, after we did the Eden podcast, and I think you did one with them too. And, we know the truth about what it says. We know that's not the case. So can you explain the unfairness threshold and the different ways it shows up in marriage?
Yeah, so we found this across a number of different measures, and we thought it was really interesting, which is that in the first 5 years of marriage, women can put up with pretty much anything and it doesn't bother them. You're in that honeymoon phase and you say, yeah, it's not really a big deal. Your marital satisfaction is still pretty high. But by year 10, you're starting to get really angry. If there's unfairness, by year 15, you're really done. And by year 20, you've had it.
Yeah. That's exactly how it went for me.
Then we see a lot of divorces. And we see this, I'll tell you a couple of different ways it shows up. Like one is with sex. So if she never reaches orgasm, it doesn't bother her in the first 5 years. But by year 20, the marriage is basically sexless. We see it with housework. So in the first 5 years, she's like, yeah, it doesn't really bug me that I do all of the housework. But by year 20, she's done. And the marriage is done. We see it even with things like who looks after your mom. So when we asked both people, hey, if your mom has a birthday or an anniversary or Mother's Day, who gets the card? Like who takes care of her? And in about 50% of marriages, they both take care of their own mom. And in the other 50%, she does it for both of them. And even in that, we see that unfairness threshold where it doesn't bother her at the beginning, but by year 20, she's had it.
Yeah.
So over and over again, when there is unfairness, you find that women can put up with it for a time, but the longer the marriage goes on, the less likely she is to put up with it.
Yeah.
And often then perimenopause or menopause sets in. And by now, she just can't put up with it anymore because it so saps your energy that all that energy that you put into just putting up with stuff that was unfair, you've had it.
Yeah.
And you can't do it anymore. So it's not that menopause causes people to get divorced. It's just that menopause brings to light the situation that was already there that was unsustainable. Yeah. And so like my message to women is in those first few years, realize that if it's unfair, it may not bother you now, but it will in the long run. And so do something about it now.
Yeah. Before it gets worse. Yeah. Yeah. Because you can only sustain so much and that makes sense.
Yeah. Because if we're so conditioned to that treatment and we allow that for so long, by the time we hit menopause, it's way too late.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I listen to a lot of people on menopause because I'm in menopause. And I listened to this one guy, I don't even remember her name now, but she had such a positive take on it, kind of what you're saying a little bit about you just don't put up with crap anymore. You realize like what you really want and what you don't and what's really important. Because when you're in menopause and you've got so many challenges, you really have to reevaluate everything. And I'm like, wow, that's a really, because there's such a negative connotation with menopause. So I thought that was really positive, you know?
Yeah.
Way to almost rediscover yourself.
It's very good advice. Thank you.
Yeah. What does your data show about men who choose physical touch as their main love language, which probably most men do?
Yeah. So this is funny because we decided to measure the love languages because, Christians make such a big deal out of it. Yeah. And a couple of interesting things. First of all, women who choose acts of service as their number one love language are way more likely to do the majority of the housework. So my question is, do they really have acts of service as a love language, or are they just feeling overwhelmed? Is this just something where they don't have a partner? And so that's really affecting them. So I think that's what's happening there. But then when men, over 50% of men chose physical touch as their love language. And when we look at them, what we find is that if a guy chooses physical touch, he is more likely to show signs of emotional immaturity. He is more likely to have a bad sex life and to not feel connected during sex. He's more likely to not be able to emotionally connect in other ways. I am not saying that there aren't healthy men with a physical touch love language. Like my son-in-law has a physical touch love language, and my daughter's great. Like they have a good marriage. So you really can have physical touch. But I think what happens is that a lot of men say they have physical touch because physical touch is safe for them. So for a guy who's not emotionally regulated, who isn't able to express what he's feeling, who channels all of his needs for connection into sex, he's saying that physical touch is his love language, but it's really because he's unable to connect in other more fundamental ways. And so it could be a red flag that there's something else going on when a guy says physical touch is his love. It doesn't mean it necessarily is, but it's just interesting that we saw elevated risks of all of those other things.
Yeah. We took that because when we met in a Christian singles group for 45 and over, and they went through that book, that your love languages. And I know his was physical touch was at least one of them, and mine probably was acts of service. It's interesting, but he's great. He does more housework than I do.
Yeah.
So we don't have that issue in this marriage, but we did in the previous.
I felt like I felt like I was married to myself. Do a lot of people tell you that? Like, I don't feel like I even was, because I don't think he ever got off the chair. I just serve him. We all just serve him. And so, yeah, what you're saying makes so much sense to me, because if he would have done one act of service, I would have maybe fell over in shock. Yeah. So I might have been like, oh, that's my love language. But it probably wasn't at all, just because he didn't get off the chair.
Yeah.
So if a couple wants to grow in their intimacy, what skills do they need? Are there habits you can put in place to get more comfortable having emotional conversations?
Yeah, I think so. I think that a lot of us are just not comfortable with emotional conversations. Women tend to be more comfortable than men, but that doesn't mean that all women are either. Think of how many of us, as we were growing up, got the message that our emotions are a problem, right? Like if you're upset, that's a problem for your parents. Right. And so you need to shut that down. And, a lot of us just didn't know how to communicate, hey, this is what I need. This is what I'm feeling, because my feelings, my needs are always an imposition to someone else. And so you become a people pleaser where you're always trying to figure out what everybody else feels, but you're not asking yourself what you feel. And the problem with intimacy in marriage is that intimacy means that you see who the other person is and they see who you truly are, and you still accept each other and love each other. But how can your spouse see who you are and know what you're feeling if you can't even express it?
Yeah.
Or how can you truly know your spouse if they can't even express it? And a lot of us were just never given those skills, and so learning those skills, learning emotional regulation and learning how to name your emotions is difficult to do as an adult, but it's so key, and it can really bless your marriage. And, one of the simple things that my husband and I put into practice a while ago, there was a period of our marriage where he was working out of town a lot. And so we often weren't together at night is on the phone. We would just share, what's the one moment in your day when you felt the most in the groove? The Holy Spirit is working through me. I am doing what I was put on earth to do. This is amazing. And then the one moment when you felt the most defeated, like, I hate this. I can't do this. Because often what we do is we ask each other, well, what did you do today? And how do you answer that question? Right? Like, I had 6 client meetings. I went to the bank at lunch. Like, it doesn't necessarily help you know someone deeper. But if it's like, no, I felt so in the groove because I had this amazing meeting with this young girl who's coming up in our company, and I was able to encourage her. And I just, I could see myself in her. And it was, like those moments tell you something about someone's emotional state, right? And similar, the moment you were most defeated. And so it's like you're opening this emotional window into your spouse, but you're also opening it to yourself, and you're realizing, oh yeah, like that really did bother me today. Or, oh, like, why did it bother me? And then you can have those conversations in sort of it's not a judgmental way. It's not an awkward way. It's just simple sharing 2 emotional windows into your day. And it's a practice that can really grow your emotional maturity too, and emotional insight into yourself.
That's a good idea, especially for couples that, or have busy evenings or something like you said.
So how do you suggest if for like a lot of us people that are single, we don't have a spouse to go over that with? How I would just do that with the Lord every day, or what would you recommend?
I think it's a great thing to do with your kids too. If you have kids, like even doing it around the table at dinner. Like, what was the moment you felt the most defeated? What was the moment you felt the most in the groove? Have those conversations with your kids as well.
Yeah.
Your friends. But I think especially for your kids, we did this with our kids as well, is because you want to know your kids. You want your kids to get used to talking about the emotions. You want the siblings to know each other, right?
Yeah.
And to have those emotional moments with each other as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I know when I get my kids together, they start talking about video games, and all 3 of them are talking, and I have no idea what they're talking about. It's like, I can't be part of this conversation. So that's good to bring things where you can all talk, and it brings each other closer because you learn about each other.
Yeah. Cause we're part of the trauma informed community with our nonprofit, and Dr. Sang-Hoon Yu leads it. And he does that. He has every meeting you go to or a little church service he has an emotional regulation chart with different colors and faces. And he wants you to know how you're feeling right now. And most of the people some are married and some aren't. So that's why I asked that question, because a lot of our listeners aren't married. So thank you for answering that.
Yeah. So what do you want couples to take away from this book?
I want couples to know that marriage can be this beautiful partnership where you really do feel known and accepted and loved. But the way to get there is to be partners. It's not to have a hierarchy in marriage at all. And you just need to show up. You need to be responsible. You need to show up. It doesn't mean that marriage has to be hard work. I don't actually believe that marriage is hard. I think life is hard. And when you get married, it adds complications. But marriage should be something that makes life easier, not harder. Because now you have someone to share that burden with. And I think that the church has often told everyone that marriage is hard to get people to stay in difficult marriages, instead of getting people to recognize, wait a minute, wait a minute. It's not supposed to be like this.
Yeah.
But I do think that we need a reality check, which is like, no, we get to be partners. We get a partner to go through life with, who's going to know me inside and out, who's going to be there to understand my hard times and my good times. Like today, as we're recording this, is my father-in-law's, what would be the first birthday my father-in-law would have had since he passed away. So this is a hard day for my husband, and I know that because I know I've seen 35 years of his relationship with his dad. Right? And like, that's what marriage is someone to be there with you. But when we turn it into something which is full of entitlement, or something which is full of authority rather than partnership, we're going to ruin what God intended.
Yeah.
We just did that book with Andrew Bauman's Safe Church. And he talks about how men, that they don't know any different. That's just how it's kind of been ingrained in them. That misogynistic attitude and the way that they think. So thank you for your book to, let people know, no, that's not healthy, because you've done study after study after study and survey after survey to get this information. And so these are accurate numbers when you're speaking, which I love.
Yeah. How many people did you interview for the marriage book?
So 40,000, because in the marriage you want, we've got stats from all our different surveys. So 40,000 in total, but for this one we had another 7,000.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
and a lot of them were matched pairs, so it's super fun. So I just want to say, if you have friends who are reading Power of a Praying Wife or Love and Respect or For Women Only or Marriage on the Rock or His Needs, Her Needs, tell them to stop and give them the marriage you want, because it is possible to write a healthy marriage book.
Yeah. What's that other book that I read? But it was basically, you're blessed. I know you've talked about it before. I can't even think the name of the book, but it's another one that I had where it's basically, if your marriage is rough, then, you just do the godly thing, push through it.
Sacred Marriage?
Yes,
Marriage?
that's it.
Yes.
That's it. Mm-hmm. There's just so many books like that I never recommend now that I look back at. So,
yeah.
And we did all the pearls too. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with
dear.
Debbie.
Yeah.
Yes. We got the newsletter.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it was bad because it's very, very, it totally fed that entitlement. It totally feeds the entitlement for the male. And then for the woman, it feeds that, you just have to do everything, you don't even have you're just nothing. You're just here for him, so
yeah.
So many things that are damaging.
I think I read the Affair Proof Marriage. Do you remember that one?
I do. Yeah.
And I read it, so it worked for me, but I don't think he read it. My ex. But is that solid? Or did you read that one?
The problem is pretty much all Christian marriage books are based on a faulty foundation, which is that the man is an authority over the wife.
Okay.
And because of that faulty foundation, everything else falls apart, and we need to get rid of that faulty foundation and teach instead the benefits of partnership and how much good fruit that bears. Yeah. Because when the tree is rotten, when the root is rotten, you're not going to bear good fruit. So
yeah. This was encouraging because I got married in May, so it hasn't even been a year yet, not even 6 months, but it's just such a complete different. Yeah, like it's more like what you're saying. Well, we are partners. And there is no hierarchy or anything. He's a Christian. He's not a legalistic Christian, we have great conversations, and it's just such a big difference. So, but yeah, your book made me encouraged, because I want it to stay that way, but I think it will, because it feels like we have that good communication, and we don't have that view like it's prevalent in so many of the evangelical books. Because in my first marriage, I would go to people early on when I was just like, gosh, marriage is really hard. And I was struggling. And the first thing they would ask me is, well, are you submitting? Yeah. They wouldn't even ask me what he was doing or what problems are you having, but that would be the question. So it automatically makes you feel like, see, it's you. It's got to be you. And then you read these books and it just reinforces that idea.
And just real quick, one last question, because I know we got to go. Do you believe that someone that is that misogynistic and has that mentality their entire life? Have you seen, in your experience, them be able to change, or have you had any stories or reports? Is it possible? Or if we're looking for someone and they say they were that way, or we sense that, should we just kind of not even, go there as far as a partner?
It's very rare that people change. I think it depends on why they have those views. Right? Because some people have the views and they're happy to have them. Like they're in control of the marriage. They're in power and they're happy to talk about how God made it that way. And if you complain about it, it means that you're stepping out of God's order and you're being rebellious, etc. But then there are people who do make the decisions and who do have hierarchy and who do see sex as a female obligation. But it's because that's what they've been taught. And it doesn't necessarily line up with other aspects in their life. And when they hear a different message, they actually experience a lot of grief over what they've done. And I have seen that happen. Okay. But those are usually not the people who are reveling in the fact that they're in charge. They're the people who, yes, they're making the decision, but it's because they feel like God has put this tremendous burden on them. And it would be a sin to not carry that burden. To not bear that burden. Or yes, they're demanding obligation sex, but it's because God told them that the way that they don't lust is to use their wife. And so they're trying to be holy. And it's totally messed up. It's completely and utterly messed up. Yeah. But it's like they're acting based on what they were taught. It's not necessarily not what they would normally gravitate to. And those are the people who change, not the people who are actively teaching this crap or are saying, that, you're just being rebellious. So,
So someone like that, we would have to give a lot of time and watch and observe and see true change.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for returning to our podcast. Where can our listeners find your book and find you on social media?
Yeah, so just go to baremarriage.com. I'm Sheila Gregoire on social media, but if you go to baremarriage.com, we've got the links to my Instagram, my Facebook, my threads, everything, my YouTube. And then the Bare Marriage podcast is out every Thursday. And like I said, I've got all those one sheets that people can download at baremarriage.com. And then our books, Great Sex Rescue, Marriage You Want, and all the other ones, you can find them there too.
Great. I highly recommend your podcast too. I love your podcast.
Yeah. And we've had people that listen to ours buy your books and listen to your podcast and bring change to their lives and their marriages. So we thank you so much.
Yeah. We love.
Yeah. Like you brought a wonderful equal partnership and just a lot of change to her life. I don't know.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. So nice to talk to you again. We appreciate everything you do.
Yes. Thank you.
All right.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Today we welcome back one of our favorite guests, Sheila Wray. I just got stumped on it. Sheila Wray Gregoire.
Yeah, you did it.
Congratulations, Karen. I mess up so many people's names.
Thanks for tuning in to Hanging On to Hope. Check out our website, hangingontohope.org. There are resources on there, and if you would like to donate or volunteer, you can do that through our website. We are a brand new nonprofit, so we appreciate any and all support. And we thank you for listening. And until next time, keep hanging on to hope. We are evidence that there is hope and healing for you, and our passion is to help you find it too. So thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening, everyone.